to believe that.
Precisely. I say any theory that can be supported by scientific evidence ought to be presented. I don't believe in a flat earth, and there's no flat earthers among the creationists that I know of, and that's ridiculous.
Let this little lady, I promised her one more question.
Just one more comment. I get this feeling, okay, about the evolutionists, which I think might help to be examined, and is this. If tomorrow every single scientist in America, some piece of evidence were gathered that proved, without a shadow of a doubt, that creation was the correct theory, the creation theory, I think that the evolutionists, I think they're afraid of something. To believe in creation would change, Phil, would it not? Your image of God. You've got an image of God. You've said you believe in God. But if creation were true, all of a sudden God isn't who you thought he was.
Well, let Phil respond to that.
Yeah. How is, stay with her for a second, man.
Okay, yeah.
How is God different?
Phil runs the show so much.
How do you believe your view of God is different from my view of God?
Okay. I think that if someone told you, Phil, that creation were really true, then it would make you all of a sudden think, my gosh, God took special time out for me, then you would be...
I think that now. I think God took special time out to give me an opportunity to exist in this magnificent, visible creation that's available to me now.
You said that you naturally evolved. God didn't take a special time out to say, and God created Phil. God thought of Phil. No, God took an ape and watched this ape evolve into a Phil eventually.
Let me ask you this. Stand up a second. Did God take time out to create the chimpanzee?
Create what?
The chimp.
You want me to put her on the panel, Phil?
So in other words, God individually created all life forms, and they haven't changed, and they look today as they always looked. No. Is that what you're saying?
He created each after its own kind. Okay, not all people are alike. They're different colors,
so
different
he created
shapes,
these
different
different
sizes.
species at different times. Is that your position?
This is true.
I see.
Okay.
And is the last species he created the human species? This is true. So we're the last act of creation then. Is that your feeling? This is true,
yes.
We should have put her on the panel, I think, Phil. Yeah, Dr.
Well, I think...
Is that your feeling,
we
Dr.
could arrange a buggy, a Model T Ford, a Model A Ford, a V8 Ford, and a modern Ford in a series. There's no question they make up a series. But we know, on the other hand, that a buggy was specially created, and so were the automobiles. One did not evolve into the other. They appeared in a true time sequence over time, but they're distinct and separate, and they're no transitional form. And that's what we see among the forms in the fossil record.
Okay.
Phil, I have a question for you. You don't want the creation view presented in schools because it's religious, because it contains a God that created that. Yet you yourself are saying that in the evolutionary process, God is evident, and yours isn't religion, yet yours contains a God also.
Well, that's my opinion. I do not insist that science teachers share my view.
Now, you see...
That's my opinion. I happen to think that, I happen to think that God must be something.
You see?
Because I think this is something. But this is not a view that I believe should be force-fed to any class in a public school.
Yeah, okay.
I have one more question. Where did the original life come from then? Do you believe in the Big Bang Theory or some other theory where something that was non-life suddenly became life? Where do you think that first piece of life came from?
I think, this is my opinion, that it came from God. I think God set off a magnificent chain of events.
Starting with the Big Bang.
Call it a Big Bang, call it whatever you want.
An explosion.
And down through the millions of years, with protein and the primordial soup and lightning and energy and the creation of the universe and the planets and the orbs and the satellites, there evolved on one of the planets, a very small planet indeed, called Earth, the conditions that allowed for the maturation, the development of millions of different kind of species, most of which are already extinct. Most are extinct. And down along this tremendous, awesome drama, at some time came a branching off of a species that became us, Homo sapiens sapien. And I think that expresses more majestically, more profoundly, the power of God than any notion that he reached out of the sky at some place and went zap and made it.
Now, Phil, let me make a point here. Phil, you realize your viewpoint according to your own mandate, cannot be taught in the public schools. Because you say, I believe in creation, I believe in a creator, that's religion. Your viewpoint cannot be taught because you said you believe evolution is guided by God, the creator. That cannot be tolerated. Now, wait a minute.
Yeah.
The only viewpoint that can be tolerated in the public schools then is a totally non-theistic or atheistic mechanistic theory of evolution, according to your own dictates.
No,
your view can't be taught in the schools. It requires God.
No, the view I want taught in a public school to my children,
Yeah, all right.
should they be young enough to go to public school,
It's pure evolution.
is science. And when they come home and say, Daddy, how did that first... I would share with them their father's personal belief that this was
That is
divinely inspired.
not
But I do
science.
not expect a teacher in a public school system to impose that view on all members of the class. I think that's the right of the parent,
Oh, now
not
wait a
the
minute.
classroom
Yes,
teacher.
you are expecting them to impose this mechanistic, materialistic theory of evolution on everybody.
Mechanistic,
every
materialistic.
student. You are not permitting that student to hear the scientific evidence for creation. And there's a tremendous
Okay.
Let me get this little
scientific
lady in here.
case
Yeah.
for creation. But you don't
Mr.
want that
Donahue?
taught.
Yeah.
You just got asked a question about how life came into being.
Right.
Well, you really never answered that question. You said, okay, well, it came through the Big Bang or whatever. But how do you really think that it came into being? If you say you believe in God, then what...
I'm not sure. I'm not sure.
Did you hear him?
God,
Did you hear him? Okay.
God created me with limits. Yeah. I tell you, and I used to be real discouraged that I couldn't get it for, you know, like you, I wanted to know. Now I'm comfortable with the wonder of it. I enjoy the questions. I enjoy your question. I enjoy your curiosity about it, and I respect your view.
Curiosity.
Huh?
I know how life
Tell
came
me
into
how.
being. Through God. He just said people, and they're there. I mean, the Lord...
You mean instantaneously, boom, there they were?
Instantaneously. I mean, God has all power. Do you believe God that has all power? I mean, do you believe he's in control of the world? Well, then how come he can't create a man?
I didn't say he couldn't create a man. I'm saying, I didn't say that. I'm saying I think he did create a man. You just don't agree with the way science is suggesting that he created it, if you want to put a religious ribbon on it.
Okay.
Mr. Gish, I'd like to ask you a question on this. We have white, we have black, we have Japs, we have Chinese, we have all different. According to religion, God created Adam and Eve. Well, where did everybody else come from?
Yeah, good question. Where did Cain
Where
and
do you
Abel...
think?
Genetic.
Where do you think?
I believe in God, I believe in Jesus, I believe that God created me, and I kind of bend a little bit towards the evolution.
Okay.
Oh, praise the Lord.
You got an ally, Phil. You got one ally.
Now, don't go deciding that somehow he's farther away from Jesus than you are.
Okay.
Now, let's relax and let's let this wonder express
itself. Where did Adam and Eve create the colored, the Chinese?
In other words, you want to know where did Cain and Abel get their wives?
Well, he also wants to know why there are so many different, how much
Ethnic groups. Where did the
within
ethnicity come from?
Yes. First of all, we would expect that in each created kind, God would have created a tremendous genetic potential or a variability so that each created kind could adapt to various environments and conditions.
Really?
Now, as far as the humans are concerned, there's no problem at all. When a woman is born, she has in her ovaries 500,000 viable eggs. She could potentially produce 500,000 different children.
Excuse me, but that is not true.
Yes, it is.
Dr. Gish, I beg you to believe that the woman is not born with 500,000 eggs. It is more like 600 eggs.
Well, let me tell you where I got my
overstate. Please, these women are tired enough having all these babies. They don't want to think.
Let me tell you where I got my figure. From a book by Lord Zuckerman called Beyond the Ivory Tower. He did research on the problem, and he started out with very different ideas.
Okay, Duane, 500 or 600,000, what's the point?
What's the point is this, that a woman and a man, genetically, could produce almost an infinite number of children without having two identical children. There's no problem, you see, if they're racially mixed, to derive from even one couple.
Yeah, but
one couple, if they're properly racially mixed, could produce one black child, one white child, and 14 children of various shades of color if they have the right genetic mix. So there's no problem genetically.
There's no problem. What color were Adam and Eve?
I suppose they were probably a pretty nice brown color. They weren't our pale white color.
Well, then where did I come from? You don't find, you know, I mean, here's the Irish guy.
Where did the Chihuahua come from and the Great Dane? They came from the same wild mongrel dog, Phil. The genetic potential was there in that wild population.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Donahue, you mentioned Homo sapiens, which is genus and species of modern man. Of all the so-called fossil man, 2 of them are now considered Homo sapiens. That is, the so-called Neanderthal is now Homo sapiens neanderthalensis,
yes.
And there's one other Cro-Magnon. The remainder consists of a few which evolutionists now admit are apes, and in some cases absolute frauds. I'd like to have your opinion on fossil man.
I respect the, you sound much more informed about these issues than I am. I respect science's, first of all, I'm impressed with science's ability to determine the age of the fossils that are discovered. I think I accept like other scientists, like most scientists, I am discouraged by the fact that we don't have a straighter line with more information. But I think that the contribution of the 2 discoveries that you found enhance the theory of evolution and make it more likely that our children might be turned on to fill in some of the gaps that are present right now in the record. I want your children to be turned on to this, because I think this praises the Lord. This is the attempt to find out more about the universe that the Lord created.
Phil, why are you so dogmatically opposed to the scientific evidence for both viewpoints being presented in our public schools? We have a democratic society. Supposedly we guarantee academic freedom, religious freedom. My tax money and your tax money supports those public schools. Why should your particular view be taught dogmatically in those schools? Why should our young people be indoctrinated in that sort of a theory? Why can't they hear both sides?
Because I think that your creationism is a religious belief.
Your view is religion too, because you say
Duane,
God
you know,
was
we're going to
involved.
run out of time, and there's another important area that I would like to, in reference to Phil's book, The Human Animal. And really the book...
By the way, may I say I've read it, and I found it to be a tremendously interesting book. I don't agree, obviously, with everything in it, but I would recommend the book.
But the book, as far as I see it, and I read it all the way through, Phil, and I congratulate you. It's an enormous piece of work. It's really more about human behavior than about evolution. Yes. And in the opening, I asked a question about how believing or not believing in evolution, what effect you feel that has, minus or plus, on human behavior. I want to get your opinion on that.
I think to know more about how we got here helps us understand why we're behaving as we are. Why are half the nations of the world at war? Why is violence almost always a male activity? Why are we getting along so badly? What is paranoia? What is racism? Why are our children becoming so alienated from us? What's the best way to raise a child to appreciate the world around him, to be able to manage his anger, to know how to laugh, to know how to cry, to know how to use all of the gifts that the human animal is entitled to have, because in my view, that's the way God planned it. Why are we smashing our intelligence, our vision, our imagination? Let's allow our children to wade right through this big door that was opened for us by Charles Darwin in 1859. Let them see what's behind them. Trust me, they will not become atheists. If anything, they'll become more impressed with the majesty of the Lord.
Can I comment on that, please?
Yeah, Duane, but let me read one thing
Sure,
for Phil. It's from, one of you have to help me, Dobzhansky. Is that right? I know he is, but pronounce it.
Theodosius.
Yeah, one of the great evolutionists. He says in a book published in 1959, man is a zoological species. But this species has evolved properties so unique and unprecedented on the animal level that in man, the biological evolution has transcended itself. Over and over again, some biologists have made themselves ridiculous by urging solutions of human, social, and political problems based on the assumption that man is nothing but an animal. How dangerous may be such false keys to human riddles is shown by the fruits of one of these errors, race theory.
Right.
Do you want to respond to that, Phil?
I I am not suggesting that everything is going to be found in an exploration of the literature available to us regarding evolution, origin of species, and so on. I am suggesting that we are not going to begin to solve the agonies that beset us all over the world today if we don't have a better appreciation of who we are. Along that way will come lots of agonies, lots of doubts, some arguments, but I believe with Tennyson that there's more faith in an honest doubt than in half the creeds. Let's not surrender to somebody charismatic or otherwise who claims to know all the answers. Let's let this door open and trust our children to use their own brains so that they can enhance their own condition on earth and love God even more.
Let them hear both sides.
Bob, how do you feel the survival of the fittest, which is at the heart and core of evolutionary teaching? How does that fit with what you were saying in the book?
I think Darwin's thesis is more properly expressed not in the survival of the fittest, but in the survival of the fitting. One of the most powerful human behavior, or the most powerful behavior to enhance the survival of a species, is not aggression, it's cooperation. We get out of each other's way 1 billion times every day. We say, excuse me. We do have some among us who reach out, lash out, often in the name of the Lord. What a terrible, terrible sacrilege that is. In the name of the Prince of Peace, we've caused more havoc than for any other single idea. But let's remember this. Most of us get through the day getting out of each other's way, respecting each other.
I agree with what you're saying, Mr. Donahue, but you were saying let's let the kids have the opportunity to listen to the facts. Why aren't they allowed to have both sides not taught as a religion? Creation is not a religion. I don't know anybody that worships creation. I really don't. They worship God or whatever.
What bothers you about evolution, may I ask?
What bothers you about creation, Phil? I mean, there are two viewpoints, creator or no creator. Both are equally religious.
Well, let me ask you, when did man first find himself on the planet Earth? And under what circumstance?
The viewpoints of creationists differ on that point. Some say it happened 1 million years ago. Others say it happened, say, 10,000 years ago,
what do you
plus or
think?
minus. I strongly lean towards a younger point of view.
10,000
But that's immaterial. I don't care when he appeared. Phil, I'll give you 5 billion years for the age of the Earth. I'll give you 20 billion years for the age of the universe. It's still not nearly long enough.
Duane, you know what we did? We took this little lady was we didn't get back to her. She hadn't finished. Yeah.
Thank you. One of the hallmarks of your show, Mr. Donahue, is to offer both sides of the position whenever available and for the search for truth, whatever that truth may be in that situation. I think that our children deserve the chance to hear both sides, that both sides are available for them. You're not forcing anyone to believe something that they don't want to believe.
Yes, ma'am. May I please just make this point? The creationists have been enormously successful by calling people atheists and suggesting they're not close to God.
It's on the basis of the scientific evidence, Phil. When I get on a college or university campus in a debate or in a lecture, I present strictly scientific evidence. I never mention anybody's religion. You brought up my religion.
Dr. Gish, I think you'll agree with what I'm about to say. The vast majority of high school textbooks regarding biology today give the back of the hand to evolution. Often, evolution is not mentioned at all.
But they give nothing to creation, absolutely nothing.
A biology textbook without evolution is like a physics textbook without Einstein. Not to expose your child to the vision and the wisdom of one of the most important contributions in the history of science on the origin of species is to deny your children a real look into the face and the glory of God.
But Phil, I don't think this crowd is saying deny the one.
But they are, though,
They're
Bob.
saying make available
That's my
both.
point.
No, that's not
Take
true.
a look at the textbooks.
No, sir.
Darwin is ignored, and you have got publishers so intimidated that they don't want to put a textbook out that says Darwin in it. They're afraid you'll boycott them, and you have been enormously successful.
Listen, Phil, let me tell you what we want. We do not want evolution taken out of those textbooks. We want both sides presented fairly in an unbiased fashion. That's all we're asking. To take evolution out, to take origins out would not be right. It would not be fair, and we don't want that. We want both sides taught in these textbooks.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Phil, but I can't separate my religion from what I am, and I don't want my children to have to either. And I think that, you know...
But I'm not asking you to.
But, you know, the Bible is the greatest book, and yet you're throwing that out altogether,
No,
you know?
I'm not. I'm not
pretty
throwing it
much.
out.
And you're saying that we need to expose our children to Darwin's writings, but you don't want to expose them to the Bible, which is the Word of God.
Yeah. Well, what should we do with Jewish children who want to maybe be exposed to the Word in the Torah?
Fine.
Should we do that?
Yes.
All right. Excuse me.
Yes.
Excuse me. Would you please let me try this?
Yeah.
So the Torah is okay with you, is that right?
Okay.
Should we teach the Torah in school too?
Yes.
All right. So now we've got the
creation
Bible and the
theory.
Torah. How about Muslim teachings?
The same book.
The Islamic faith. Should the Islamic faith? You know, where do we stop? Who gets the most time of all? Please see. I just have one point to make. Protecting the public schools.
We don't want religion in the public schools, Phil. We're not asking for that. We don't want the book of Genesis. We don't want Islam. We don't want anything taught in those schools.
Well, that's not what you said.
Navajo Indians, we want the scientific evidence for creation presented. And
All I'm asking you to believe, I'd like you to believe and I'm off. Just let me, I believe that keeping religion, your religion, out of public schools enhances the freedom of expression of your religion.
But Phil, you want
that's
secular humanism. You want secular humanism in those schools. And
Phil,
humanism is a non-theistic
Let me get with
religion.
this little lady.
Yes,
I'd
ma'am.
just like to say that I was saved through Darwin's theory of evolution. I came to a belief in God, but I figured I did not need Jesus Christ. I could certainly go to God by myself. And I was not going to swallow anything. I got Darwin's theory of evolution, and I read it. And I was so awed by the magnificent God who had created nature, which was beyond...
You have to hurry, I'm running out of time.
I could imagine. At that point, I said, I can no longer identify with this God who is so vast and above me. At that point, I researched Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
And I saw that he lived on a level which was far superior to mine.
And did you reject Darwin then?
Of course not. But I have rejected evolution for one reason. Until they find that missing link, I'm not going to accept it.
Okay.
And I would like you to discuss about the evolution, the lack of evolution of speech.
Yeah, we don't have time to open up any new
Absolutely
areas.
no evidence for
I
that
want to
point, by
thank
the way.
you, Dr. Duane Gish, for coming and sharing with us.
Thank you very much.
And I think we ought to give Mr. Phil Donahue a special round for coming into the lion's den, as it were.
Thank you.
Whether you agree with his position or not, he's a brave man, right? Okay. And I'll be right back in just a moment. Don't go away. I'll be right back.
Since its inception in October of 1984, Feedback has striven for excellence in informing you of issues that concern our society today. In recognition of this, Feedback has received 2 Angel Rim Awards for its excellence in the media, one for its program Homosexuality in the Church, and second for its program Suicide. You are invited to be a guest in our studio audience whose participation is vital to the continued success of Feedback. For more information regarding the taping and scheduling of upcoming programs, please call area code 305-962-1700. Audio and video cassettes along with written transcripts are available by writing Feedback, 3324 Pembroke Road, Pembroke Park, Florida, 33021.
It is said that the Kaiser Wilhelm stood one day before a classroom filled with children, and pointing to a flower in his lapel, a ring on his finger, and a bird flying past the window, he asked the school children to which kingdom each of those belonged, and they answered for him vegetable, mineral, and animal. And I guess they got an A for the right answer. Then the Kaiser asked them the question that should be the supreme question facing all of humanity. He asked the school children, to which kingdom do you belong? And well-educated in the system of this world, they answered animal, and they got another A for another right answer. But was it the right answer? Is it the right answer? Well, let's ask about Jesus Christ. He lived on this planet. He walked, he talked, he breathed, he ate, he drank, as we do. Can you think of Jesus Christ in only biological or animal terms, or was he something more, something different? If you believe what he said in the Bible, what he taught, what he said about himself, then you have to believe that Jesus was more than a biological creature, more than an animal. As a matter of fact, Jesus said to his disciples, to his followers, that his kingdom actually was not of this world. And in John chapter 17, we call it the priestly prayer. When he was praying for his disciples, he said of his disciples, they are not of this world. Now, what could Jesus mean, not of this world? Well, if you go to the Beatitudes, the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus said, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of God. In other words, Jesus taught that there is a spiritual dimension to man that is not present in these other biological beings on planet Earth. It is that part that makes him God-like, that soul, that spirit, so that man literally belongs, though he be on this planet, to another kingdom. And Jesus taught it is an everlasting kingdom. It is the eternal kingdom. It is the kingdom of God. I guess the supreme question facing every one of us, the one that perhaps is more important to us than all else, is which kingdom do I belong to? And if you look in the Bible, God's Word, you will find that there's a spiritual dimension that can only be brought into proper perspective and relationship by a knowledge, a personal knowledge of Jesus Christ. If you will write us today, we will send you, if you requested a transcript of today's program, or we will send you, if you requested, a feedback fact sheet about evolution and creationism. So all you have to do is just write to feedback. The address is there on your screen, and we will get that transcript or the feedback fact sheet in the mail to you as quickly as possible. Give us a little while as it takes some time. Thank you for joining us on Feedback today. Thank those of us of our studio audience, and we'll be back in a week, and I hope that you'll be joining us when we have another vital and scintillating topic on feedback. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us on Feedback. If you have a comment or suggestion on today's program, just write Feedback, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711. That's Feedback, P.O. Box A, Santa Ana, California, 92711. Feedback is a presentation of the Trinity Broadcasting Network.